Quarterly Christmas time once again, and with it, a new beginning for the veteran vehicles. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 641 for January 28th, 2021. This show is brought to you by my supporter, Brad. Brad wants to encourage all of you to consider joining him as a supporter of Tesla Tidbits on Patreon.com for as little as $1 a month. Let's join together to keep the Tesla Tidbits coming. Let's begin the show, as I always do on these occasions, with the investor letter. Or, I guess they're calling it the shareholder deck now, but same thing. Tesla ended the year in style, posting its sixth straight profitable quarter at $270 million. For the quarter, as we'd already discussed on a previous show, the company delivered 180,667 vehicles, and it's another brand new record for a quarterly delivery number. This brought them within spitting distance of their 500,000 vehicle guidance at 499,647 deliveries, despite a global pandemic shutting down the main factory for a full 6 weeks. Amazing work by the Tesla team. Another interesting note in the deck was the number of supercharger locations and chargers. Ending Q4, Tesla had 2,564 locations, sporting 23,277 chargers. Great news for owners, as this represents a 17.6% increase in locations and a near 20% increase in chargers over just 3 months ago. Finding a supercharger in a country Tesla is doing business in certainly gets easier and easier by the day. Again, amazing work by the team doing that planning and development work. Moving on to production capacity, Tesla sets the stage for a 1 million vehicle delivery year, saying they believe that the Fremont factory is capable of producing 600,000 vehicles per year, and the Shanghai factory is currently capable of adding another 450,000. This doesn't even include the Berlin factory, which is expected to come online this year, nor the Texas factory that should have a small amount of production at the end of the year if the timetable holds for Cybertruck. And lastly, lest I bury the lead, Model S and Model X finally received their long-awaited interior refresh, and as I told someone today, it makes my car look like a dinosaur inside now. The Model S and Model X will keep the display behind the steering wheel, but now sports a 17-inch landscape-mounted center screen, as well as a third 8-inch display in the back for passenger entertainment and controls. Due to the new controls in the back, the car sports tri-zone climate control, permitting the rear passengers to enjoy their own custom level of comfort. For those that are fans of a steering yoke, Tesla has finally at long last equipped a production vehicle with a steering yoke. From the website, Tesla says, quote, "The ultimate focus on driving. No stalks, no shifting. With a stalkless steering yoke, you can enjoy both the best car to drive and the best car to be driven in," end quote. The entertainment system gets a new bump, and I suspect cabin quietness as well, as the cars now sport a 22-speaker system, including microphones that allow for active noise canceling. This should greatly reduce external road noise, which is the only thing that keeps the cars from having a perfectly silent cabin while in motion. That is it for the investor deck, and now, on to the earnings call, folks. We'll start with Elon's opening monologue, as always. Elon was a touch long-winded here, but I think the whole audio is worth your listen.
Thank you. So just to recap the year, 2020 was a defining year for us on many levels. Despite a challenging environment, we reached an important milestone of producing and delivering 500,000 cars. I'd just like to once again thank the people at Tesla for an incredible effort. We delivered almost as many cars last year as we produced in our entire history. So really an incredible growth rate, and despite a very challenging 2020. So my hat is off. It's such an honor to work with such great people at Tesla. So, and for the year, we achieved free cash flow of nearly $2.8 billion after spending more than $3 billion on building new factories and other expenditures. We reached industry-leading GAAP operating margin in addition to positive net income and record cash flow. Regarding capacity expansion, while we focus on execution, we continue to build a lot of new capacity. We started producing the Model Y out of Fremont and have almost reached full production speed. We ramped the Model 3 in Shanghai to more than 5,000 cars a week sustainably, and Shanghai continues to grow rapidly. We introduced the heat pump to all of our vehicles. we ramped the single piece. We started and were able to ramp to volume production the single piece castings for Model Y. This is where, for the first time in history, the entire rear third skeleton of the car is being cast as a single piece in the largest and most advanced casting machine ever made. We built a Model Y factory in China from start to finish in 1 year. We're also building Giga Berlin and Giga Texas, which we expect to start production later this year. And lastly, we built a battery cell factory in the Bay Area. And this, even though it is a pilot plant, its capacity is large enough that it would be in probably the top 10 battery cell factories on Earth, despite being a pilot plant. Regarding the new Model X, S and X, we are launching we're super excited to announce the new Model S and Model X Plaid are in production now and will be delivered in February. So we've been able to bring forward the Plaid Model S and X, and so Model S will be delivered in February and Model X a little later. The Model S Plaid, we're actually in production now, and we'll be delivering next month. So this is a tri-motor Model S with a completely new interior. There are actually a lot of great things about this. I'll do another call about the Model S later, but it's really a tremendous improvement over the prior version. And the Model S will be the first. This Model S Plaid will be the first production car ever that is able to go 0 to 60 miles an hour in under 2 seconds. So no production car ever has been able to get below 2 seconds, 0 to 60. This is a luxury sedan that is able to go 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, and will have the ability to seat up to 7 people with the third row seats. So this is pretty nuts. This is faster, to be clear, than any car. It's not like there was a different type of car, like a two-door sports car, that was able to do better faster than this. This is the fastest accelerating car ever made that is allowed to go on roads in history. And like I said, we'll start delivering it in a matter of weeks. And just, and like I said, I'll do something that gets into the details of all the Model S changes, maybe later this week or next. But it's really better in many ways. We will be actually raising the price of Model S for this new model. So people who got the old model, the new model will be $10,000 more. So hopefully people aren't too upset if they bought the old model last month, but this one's $10K more. So yeah, we think it's probably the best car of any kind at any price available in the world today. So, then with regard to full self-driving, we've made massive progress on full self-driving. If I recommend watching the videos of our public beta. So we've got, I think, almost 1,000 people in the beta at this point, and with each successful release of the beta of the FSD software, it's really improving rapidly. It's now very common for I drive the latest builds. It's very common for me to have no interventions on drives that I do, including drives to places I've never been to. So these are not pre-planned routes. The car's never been there before, and it's now actually more. It's more common than not for the car to have no interventions, even on a complex drive. So, and this is like basically, I'm highly confident the car will be able to drive itself with a reliability in excess of human this year. This is a very big deal. And thinking about how does one justify the value of the company being where it is? And I think there is a way, just with back of the envelope math, to potentially justify it, where if Tesla ships, let's say hypothetically, 50 or $60 billion worth of vehicles, and those vehicles become full self-driving and can be used in robotaxis, uses robotaxis, their utility increases from an average of 12 hours a week to potentially an average of 60 hours a week if they're capable of serving as a robotaxi. So that's like roughly a 5x increase in utility. But let's, even if you say like, okay, well, let's just assume that the car becomes twice as useful as, not 5 times useful, but merely twice as useful. That would be a doubling again of the revenue of the company, which is almost entirely gross margin. So it would mean it would be like, okay, if you made $50 billion worth of cars, it would be like having $50 billion of incremental profit, basically, from that, because it's just software. So, and if that were the case, then yeah, if you do 20 PE on that, it's like $1 trillion, and the company is still in high growth mode. So I think there is a way to sort of like, justify the valuation of the company where it is, using just the cars and nothing else, cars with FSD. And I suspect at least some number of investors are taking that approach. So in conclusion, while 2020 was a turning point for Tesla, and in terms of profitability, we believe this is just the beginning. We think 2021 is going to be even more exciting, and you don't know what to expect in a given year. Obviously, last year there were many things we did not expect. But assuming that 21 is a relatively normal year from an external standpoint, I think it's going to be a great year for Tesla. We've got a ton of many great new products coming out. We've got factories that are advanced factories that are going to start up production. It'll also make it easier having a factory in Berlin, one in Texas that can, just from a logistics standpoint, Texas can help supply the eastern half of the U.S. and Berlin can help supply Europe. And there's just fewer cars on boats, much less capital tied up with the cars that are on boats or being transported to customers. And I think the fundamental efficiency of the company will be much better with the factories, at least having factories on each continent and having 2 factories in the U.S. So I'm super excited about the future, and really look forward to making it happen.
Great news for you Model S and Model X Plaid order holders, as you'll be getting your cars starting next month. Also, the third row making a comeback on Model S. For those with young kids, this is huge news. Trust me, your kids will beg you to ride back there. I had a loaner vehicle that had them, and my 2 boys didn't want to get my car back. First up on the question front, the ever-growing grumbling about the purchase of full self-driving being something that transfers with the owner and not the vehicle. I've made my thoughts very clear on this matter, in that those that want this transfer should opt for the subscription rather than purchase, and it seems that Elon is in line with my thoughts.
Unfortunately, we're not considering that at this time. We do actually offer an increase, a higher price than for a car with FSD than the one without FSD. And I do think that the market currently undervalues, or the consumer market, and arguably the stock market does probably undervalue just how good FSD is going to be. But we're not currently planning on allowing it to get transferred. We will be offering subscription pretty soon in the next month or 2. So that should address a lot of people's concerns for being able to get it.
That's the trade-off, folks. If you want the convenience of taking full self-driving with you to any future Tesla you own, you want the subscription. If you want the overall lower cost of the feature without the portability, buy the option outright. This should be no surprise to anyone, and personally I continue to be perplexed by people that feel they're entitled to a no-charge upgrade on their next car. It would blow up the entire financial model the feature is built on. The company puts the hardware that makes this possible in every vehicle in the hope that owners will purchase or subscribe to the feature, or that they one day will. The alternative would be not installing the hardware unless the feature was ordered, and we would then have Teslas on the road that have no capability of self-driving. Those cars would be far less desirable than ones that had this capability, enabled or not. This will never happen. The The solution for full self-driving portability is the subscription service, and always will be. If full self-driving purchase portability is ever a thing, I will happily make a $100 or more donation to my local food pantry. All right, I'll jump off my soapbox now and move on to the next question, where it was asked how the production of the 4680 cells is progressing.
Yeah, sure. It's true. The in-house cell manufacturing system we revealed at Battery Day contained new processes and equipment. So we did expect some unknown unknowns and technical challenges to arise through the production ramp. The Cato team, however, has been able to solve each manufacturing problem presented to date and continues to improve yield and rate week over week and month over month as we move up the production S-curve. At the same time, the cell engineering team's refined designs and deepened understanding has reinforced our confidence in the drive process and 4680 design, meeting our performance and cost targets. And from a capacity perspective, we have 10 gigawatt hours worth of equipment landed at Cato. The production staff is nearly all hired. Our material supply chain is established, and the team is on track for full production ramp this year. Meanwhile, we've developed enough engineering confidence with our 4680 design and the production process and equipment to kick off manufacturing equipment and facility construction to support our 100 gigawatt hour 2022 goal.
Sounds like good progress. Being production ready before the year is out sounds tremendous, and I suspect that both Cybertruck and the new Roadster will be the first to benefit from these cells. Next up is full self-driving. The question is why Elon is confident that Tesla will achieve level 5, that is, totally autonomous self-driving capability, in 2021, and why the Dojo supercomputer is not necessary to get there.
I guess I'm confident based on my understanding of the technical roadmap and the progress that we're making between each beta iteration. As I was saying, it's now not remarkable at all for the car to completely drive you from one location to another through a series of complex intersections. It's now about just improving the corner case reliability and getting it, to 99.9999% reliable with respect to an accident. Basically, we need to get it to better than human by a factor of at least 100% or 200%. But this is happening rapidly because we've got so much training data with all the cars in the field, and the software is improving dramatically. We also write the software for labeling, and I must say it is quite challenging. We're moving everything towards video labeling, so it's all video labeling, all video inference, and so there's still a few of the neural nets that need to be upgraded to video training and video inference, and really as we've transitioned each net to video, the performance has become exceptional. So this is like a hard thing. The video, the labeling software that we wrote for video labeling, making that better has a huge effect on the efficiency of labeling. And then, of course, the holy grail is auto labeling. So we're putting a lot of work into having the labeling tool be more efficient when used by a person, as well as enabling auto labeling where we can. Dojo is our sort of training supercomputer. We believe it'll be. We think it may be the best neural net training computer in the world by possibly an order of magnitude. So it is a whole thing in and of itself, and this is something we could offer potentially as a service. So if others need neural net training, we're not trying to keep it to ourselves. So I think Dojo could be a whole line of business in and of itself. And then, of course, for training vast amounts of video data and getting the reliability from, say, 100% to 200% better than average human to 2,000% better than average human. So it will be very helpful in that regard.
So, long and short, Elon is confident in the technology Tesla now has in place, and the Dojo supercomputer will increase an expected already superhuman reliability by an order of magnitude. If we can judge by the full self driving beta videos all over the internet already, I'm pretty confident that by December, we will indeed see zero intervention drives be commonplace, and any intervention being the rare exception. Speaking of which, though, the next interesting question is regarding the licensing of autopilot.
I think we're very open to licensing our software to third parties, and we've had some preliminary discussions about licensing autopilot to other OEMs. So this is something we're more than happy to do, and but I think obviously we need to probably do a little bit more work to prove that Tesla autopilot is capable of full self-driving, which, like I said, I think will become obvious later this year. And then we're more than happy to license that to other car companies. We're definitely not trying to keep it to be a Tesla exclusive situation. And I think probably the same goes for Autobidder. We haven't thought as much about Autobidder, but the Tesla philosophy is definitely not to create walled gardens. We're going to allow other companies to use our supercharger networks, using our autonomy software and Autobidder and perhaps other things would be fine too.
Wow. So you could potentially see Tesla's self driving technology in other cars. I wonder who will be the first to take Elon up on the offer, especially where he says they've already been in preliminary talks to do so. The next pertinent question for this audience was on Cybertruck, specifically where the process of development completion is and how many deliveries can be expected in 2021.
Right. So we finished almost all of the Cybertruck engineering. So we're no longer iterating at the design center level or design level. We've got the design is fixed. We're getting to we'll soon order the equipment necessary to make the Cybertruck work. We're actually going to be using even bigger casting machines for the rear body of the Cybertruck because you've got obviously a bigger vehicle and you've got a long truck bed that's going to support a lot of load. So we'll be using an 8,000-ton casting press for the rear body casting as opposed to 6,000-ton for Model Y. So 6,000-ton was the biggest casting press in the world. 8,000-ton, obviously, quite a bit bigger than that. And I think it's going to be an incredible vehicle. If we get lucky, we'll be able to do a few deliveries towards the end of this year, but I expect volume production to be in 2022.
No real surprise that design is finished, as with all Cybertruck's brothers and sisters, the prototype pretty much ended up being the final product, with maybe some tiny tweaks. The sad bit, though, is that real deliveries will certainly not start until 2022. There may be a lucky few that sneak into this year, much like when Model 3 first started rolling out, and the lucky few that got cars in the first couple months following the final unveiling of the vehicle. I cannot wait to see one of these in person, that's for sure. That thing is a beast, and I can't wait to see it on the road. Finally on the call, Elon gives us a glimpse of his future.
Well, I expect to be CEO of Tesla for several years. So I think there's still a lot that I'm super excited about doing, and I think it would be hard to leave a lot of these great projects halfway or partway done. So I do expect to be running the company for several years into the future. Now, obviously, nobody is or should be CEO forever. So I don't expect to be. It's like the sheer amount of work required to be CEO of Tesla is insane. I think I do probably more. Well, I definitely do more technical work than is typical for a CEO. So it would be nice to have a bit more free time on my hands, as opposed to just working day and night from when I wake up to when I go to sleep 7 days a week. It's pretty intense. But I think the mission isn't over yet, and we've still got a long way to go before we can really make a dent in the world on accelerating the advent of sustainable energy. I mean, the goal of Tesla from the beginning has been to accelerate sustainable energy. But if you say, like, what percentage of cars on the road are electric today, it's still very, very tiny, like on the order of 1%, or I think less than 1% of the total fleet worldwide. So that's still a hell of a long way to go for, call it on the order of 1% of the fleet is electric. There's also a tremendous way to go on solar power, although it's exciting to see the advent of very cost-competitive wind and solar and geothermal, and of course we need a large volume of stationary battery packs. I mean, basically the three legs of a sustainable energy future are sustainable energy generation via solar, wind, geothermal, and hydro, and a few others. And I'm actually not against nuclear fission. I actually think nuclear fission is, with a well-designed reactor in a situation that is not subject to bad weather or seriously bad weather is actually, it is a good thing to do. So, but then the second thing you need stationary storage. You need batteries because most renewable energy is intermittent. The wind doesn't blow all the time, the sun doesn't shine all the time. So you need a lot of batteries, and they need to be very long lasting and high cycle life. And then you need electric transport. And if you have those three things, we've got a very bright future with respect to energy and the environment. So a long way to go on that, and so I'm still very much fired up to work on that.
It seems Elon is still well taxed by his obligations, but will be around until he feels the mission to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy is complete. I worry, though, that if he drops back to a chief architect role, if he will be able to execute the mission plan in the way that he has. If he has someone over him that doesn't share the vision and holds him back, this would be bad for Tesla, in my opinion. Thankfully, from the man himself, we don't have to worry about that anytime soon. And that will do it for this week's show. Thanks to all my patrons supporting the show at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. And as always, I have a special shout out for all the super patrons supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They are Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dorian Steve Guberman, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Todd Sullivan, Mitch Long, Zortec LED Canada, Morven Ogg, Raymond and Deborah Malkowitz, T Sportline, Vicky Kirk, Ricky Johnston, Nathan Garza, Ed Patterman, and Sunil Joseph. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. Until next time, keep it charged and hit the road.